Folks, it's Tuesday. Welcome into another edition of Hot Topics right here at pubsportsradio.com. He's Jeff Nadeau. I'm Donnie Seymour. Hot topic today, Jeff. How about Cam Newton, where he possibly lands? Hey, look, we've seen some backup quarterbacks move, the competitiveness of that market, guys not getting maybe what they're worth. And Jeff, the biggest fish in the pond, still out there with Cam.
Yeah, it's still one of the bigger head scratchers, Donnie, in the NFL. Look, you can say what you want about Cam Newton, whether you like his crazy outfits off the field or whatever, but the truth of the matter is he's a good enough NFL quarterback to lead a team in winning games. I still find it fascinating he's not on an NFL team.
No, it's interesting because we always like to flip it back to gambling and where it lands. I'm not so surprised at this point because I don't know if there's a rush to get him in for how many spots that are actually open and available in the NFL. And let's also talk about, Jeff, in the coronavirus environment out here, you don't really have an off season, and we know he wants to be a starter. When we take a look at Andy Dalton going to be a backup with the Dallas Cowboys, you could see him fitting in that role. To me, Jeff, I think Cam Newton's a starter, and that's about it. I don't think he would be that productive as a backup or be that guy in the quarterback room. And also, you're talking about a guy, again, Jeff, these guys are $20 million a year players shifting back and taking $2 or $3 million guaranteed, maybe some incentives. Before I throw it back to you, Jeff, looking at the odds in the offseason where Cam Newton might land, still the favorite with the Patriots, now sitting at plus 250. Remember last week, Jeff, we're talking about like minus 200 to the Patriots. That's completely flipped. Jaguars at plus 300, Redskins at plus 300, Steelers at plus 500. So there's still some options out there, but no longer that clear lead dog.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie, The Ringer did a really good article on Cam Newton and has the NFL given up on him. And that's really the big question because, you go back, I mean, in NFL years, he's old. I mean, he's going to be 31 years old here in about 3 weeks. So he's getting up there. You look at his success, it was back in, 2010, it's been a while. But he's had some good seasons since then. They went to the Super Bowl at one point. But again, this is a guy that, as you said, and I think you're dead on the money, he is a starter in this league. I got to tell you, Donnie, I'm surprised that Jacksonville hasn't made it a point to bring Cam Newton in. I think it would be interesting to watch. I mean, let's agree with something, Donnie. Do we look at Gardner Minshew and say he is a top flight, gotta be starter in this league? I mean, he's a guy that I think it'd be beneficial to watch him in some kind of quarterback competition. I got to tell you, Cam Newton would destroy him in a quarterback competition.
But it's interesting you bring up Jacksonville because on paper, like if we're all about winning games, Jeff, absolutely he would be an upgrade over Gardner Minshew in the NFL. But it's clear to me that the Jaguars are in complete and utter full tank mode where if you bring Cam Newton in, like what happens if he wins a game or two you're not supposed to win, I mean, that's where I look at it with Jacksonville.
And you might be right on that, and that might be the reason they're not doing it. I will say this, and look, I don't love Cam Newton off the field, as I said. I think he could be a little rigid. I think he could be, he's kind of got a Russell Westbrook vibe to him to me. But I will say this, Donnie. I think it's important to mention, you've got to wonder what Cam Newton could be as a quarterback if Carolina was willing. And again, they only really got Christian McCaffrey late in Cam Newton's career at Carolina. You got to wonder what he would be if. And he kind of reminds me a bit, Donnie, of like a Donovan McNabb type. He never really – do you remember any weapons he really ever had there? I'm seriously.
I mean, Greg Olsen is. I see where I certainly see where you're going with that too. And also, you're talking to look at the last year and a half, where basically his body failed him. You had the leg injury, which cost him the entire year. And then, if you remember watching, Carolina could have been something different if Cam Newton would have been able to throw the ball 10 to 15 yards. His arm was shot. He now seems to be healthy at this point. How healthy, we don't know, but you might be getting a reinvigorated Cam Newton now.
Yeah, and, you have to wonder, though, is he starting? And I know he doesn't have obviously the political stuff and anything like that, but does he fall into that Colin Kaepernick level where he's a forgotten guy and he never gets picked up? Because it's starting to look like that. I mean, no one's picking the guy up. Why?
Well, it's interesting because, like, if you equate it, like, Jeff, like the real estate market, right? Your comparables around your area is what your property is going to sell for. I got to tell you, him and his agent had to sit back and be like, all right, there's a underlying free agency quarterback area here that we can all have. Andy Dalton's used to making $17 million a year. You had Jameis Winston making $20 million a year in his last year of his contract. And now all of a sudden, Jeff, Winston is going for $1 million. All intents and purposes, there's a $7 million contract for Andy Dalton. But really, if he doesn't get in the games, Jeff, it's $3 million. If you look at Cam Newton, he's got all the money in the world. Is he beating down doors now to go, hey, Bears, I can back up. And they go, well, we'll pay you $3 million. Does he even want to go through that? Because when you're a starter in the NFL, you're used to being a starter, the face of the franchise, making the big money. What happens if a team like the Denver Broncos calls him and says, hey, Cam, we don't really want you to start. How about you come in, we'll get a look-see for you for a year and pay you $2 million. Does he want that?
Well, I think, and again, I'd have to look this up. I don't know what he was making, in his final years with
it was 20. Carolina. It was about, it was what he had, the $100 million contract. It's about $20 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he needs to, I think, and Donnie, you kind of look at, and you always kind of try to compare, but you always look back to Allen Iverson and his unwillingness to admit that he was a backup player. He wanted money. He wanted to be a starter. I don't know if we're at that point with Cam Newton, though. He's still a starter in this league. I got to tell you, I don't know if New England thinks they can compete. Not really sure what they're waiting on. I mean, I think we all could agree that, Jarrett Stidham's probably not the guy going forward, but they think he maybe is. It's really odd how some of these teams are just in such belief that they can compete with some of these guys. Because I think you and I both know, Donnie, Jarrett Stidham's probably not going to take them to the playoffs and make them a Super Bowl caliber team. You got to wonder, does Cam Newton? No, but he gives them a much better opportunity to win. I like Cam Newton still at the end of the day as a player. I still think he probably has especially in this, quarterback market, as far as what quarterbacks do now. He's a prototypical type of guy. Remember, Dunny, at one point, people compared him to like LeBron James of the NFL. Like he was the next big super.
Yeah, his 2014 MVP season, which went into the Super Bowl, he was absolutely outrageously good. Now, look, when you said he was 31 years old, in NFL terms for a quarterback, that's not that old at all. But in terms of a 31-year-old Cam Newton who runs the football, it's not like you're looking at a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees who doesn't really take a pounding. This guy was a legitimate running back playing quarterback, but obviously playing at a high-level quarterback where he was taking a pounding. Now, when we look at certain teams that are out there right now, right, because where he lands, and again, like the New England Patriots, would be a perfect spot for Cam Newton. But then the underlying things where Belichick is so diabolical that he'll go, watch me move on from Brady, watch me take Jarrett Stidham, and I'm going to still win this division. It's crazy that you think about, but that's really what you run into, because you're right. He should start day one for the Patriots. He should start day one for the Chargers. The Washington Redskins, who knows where Dwayne Haskins is going? He's a better quarterback right now than Dwayne Haskins. And the one team that was on the outlier, which I thought might have been able to jump in but then obviously going with Herbert in the draft, was the Los Angeles Chargers, because you would think, Jeff, what's the perfect scenario if you have Tyrod Taylor and Cam Newton? Do you have to change the offense all that much if one of those two guys gets hurt? I thought it was a perfect spot, but they said at 20-1 to even get him now, because obviously drafting Herbert.
You got to wonder, Donnie, though. You remember in that Super Bowl when he didn't dive for the ball?
Yeah, I do.
Do people still look back at that and
didn't answer questions in the post-game press conference? I mean, that was a long time ago, but that still stigma sticks with him.
And he seemed to be kind of like arrogant, like he didn't want to answer anything, like kind of standoffish or whatever. But again, I think it's important to also keep in mind, I mean, the market's not really there for Cam Newton. I mean, the only teams, as we've talked about, that I think would be interested would be, the Jags, New England. Maybe you thought the Chargers, or not the Chargers, the Raiders, but they go out and get Marcus Mariota. Chicago's probably off the. I think if you're Cam Newton, you probably just wait at this point.
Yeah, is it a reset year? Because it's a whole crazy offseason and a lot of free agent quarterbacks.
Well, someone's going to need a quarterback, Donnie.
No, somebody's going to go. Somebody's going to go down. Somebody's going to need one. But taking a look at, like, when Winston signs for that cheap money, going to New Orleans, where he's 26, 27 years old, that's a great reset for him, and he can get back into the market next year and hopefully, look the way Teddy Bridgewater used it. He's got a nice contract now in Carolina. Like, for Cam Newton, for me, it's not so much like a learning season. It's almost like just get back into the fold. Do you remember when Mike Vick came back to the Eagles, Jeff, in the first year? He wasn't all there yet. He goes in the offseason, trains his ass off, now completely healthy, and runs roughshod the next year. It just seems like one of those years, same age, right?
He was a very comparable player. People don't remember. Michael Vick was really good in this town. He was a really good player. He had a lot of good seasons. I mean, I've said before, Michael Vick's my favorite NFL player ever. I just love the way he was. But I think that's a great comparison, Donnie. And you got to wonder, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but I'm going to. Okay, I get why the Eagles, for instance, took a quarterback. I don't necessarily understand why they took a quarterback in the second round, but there was a need for a quarterback here. We know Carson Wentz, even back to his college days, doesn't play full seasons. I got to tell you, Donnie, it would have been fascinating to watch Cam Newton in this town compete because you know he's going to be needed at some point, right?
They would because they would have worked him in, right? He would have had packages for himself, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you'd only have to pay him $2, $3, $4 million.
But that's the question. Like, what is he asking for at this point? Like, if you went to his agent, like, look, the market is bare out here. Why don't you come into an organization that's built on offense? Like, let's just say the Philadelphia Eagles or the San Francisco 49ers, and say, we'll put some packages in. You're just here to get right. So in the next offseason, when somebody calls me and say, yo, Cam is ready to go, then he gets his 4 years, $100 million. You know what I mean?
We're willing to pay you a high level of unemployment to play for us.
$4 million, right? Like, rehab, get paid, pay all your bills, and
be
then
a good teammate.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Jameis Winston, that's what he's doing.
Correct.
He's got to swallow his pride. He doesn't want to sit on the fucking bench, but he's going to, and that's just the truth of the matter. Yeah. But if he's look at Teddy Bridgewater, prime example. Teddy Bridgewater shut the fuck up and did what he was told. He was cold, come in, and he killed it.
Yep. Come in, learn from the system, perform, because he performed very well when he got in there and kept that streak alive for the Saints. Yeah. But people don't see that with Cam, right? Because again, I still have the same visions. Like, I don't picture Cam as being a good guy backup quarterback. Like Jameis Winston, can you figure coming in like the knucklehead he is, but still coming in, doing his job, being liked in the locker room, having fun? I can't picture that out of Cam saying, you're the backup, stay over here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I guess Cam Newton he's good. He's got, I'm sure he's got $45-50 million.
Big contracts.
Yeah. Instead of worrying about the future, just sit out, wait for someone to call, because they will. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about,
no pressure. Yeah, exactly. Like an unemployment year, pay $4 million, pay all your bills, rehab you don't even have to rehab your image, because he doesn't have it. It's a wrong misconception. His image is just that from gamblers like myself, where he throws the first quarter interception and it looks like he already checked out.
He's not Jameis Winston. Correct. He doesn't have those off the field.
Yeah, he doesn't have it. You're right.
But he is a guy that's polarizing for some
on the field. Yes.
I think if I were Jacksonville, which I'm not. You make the point about tanking. If that's true, obviously it makes sense. But if I want to win games and I'm Jacksonville, I would have already brought him in. I don't know what they're waiting on. Look, I like Gardner Minshew. He's a nice kid. He's been one of the great stories in the NFL as far as what he was at and where he is now. But let's be honest, Donnie. I don't know if he's going to go to the playoffs. He
might get buried this year. Like the Jaguars are set up to get buried this year. Maybe they figure like, hey, just throw this guy out there and he, like a crash test dummy, he dies.
You know what, Jacksonville, they're such a lame organization. And I'll tell you why. Their whole thing is we're just going to compare. Look at what we did. We had Blake Bortles or Blaine Gabbert, and we went to the AFC title game with a good defense. We could do that again. When they just fucking understand that if they got a good quarterback in there, that might be able to take some pressure off the defense. Yeah. They're such a lame, dumb organization.
Yep. They trying to get rid of him. They trade Calais Campbell away. Ngakoue doesn't want to be there. You traded your two best corners. You're tanking. And it's amazing that an NFL franchise can be run like that, because you're right. Like just the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl 2017. You know who was supposed to be there and probably should have been there right along with the Jacksonville Jaguars blowing
the lead.
Correct. I remember sitting in the stands, Jeff. 10 points. Damn, Jeff, we're playing the Jaguars in 2 weeks.
I remember sitting. I was outside of the game before the game started. I was in the Bud Light tailgate thing or whatever. They had the game on TV, and I said, "Holy shit, we're gonna play Jacksonville if we win this game tonight." And I was loving it because I think Jacksonville, we'll fucking beat Jacksonville. We're gonna win the Super Bowl. And then naturally, New England finds a way to come back and win, but. Yeah, I think that's their thought process. We can, but they don't have that defense anymore. Jalen Ramsey's gone. Ngakoue ain't going to play there again. They're just, I think they're looking to tank.
Yep, retired linebackers that are getting into trouble off the field now with Telvin Smith. That is a mess of an organization. They don't even know where they're going to be in 3 years. They want to be probably overseas. Go ahead.
Yeah, London. I'll ask you. Final point.
Yeah.
And we'll both answer this. Let's not even say September 1st. Let's say November 1st, where's Cam Newton at?
November 1st.
Is he at home? What team is he on?
It's funny too, because I know other people don't want to see him go somewhere, but I got to see him with a good organization. Like, I don't see him, Jeff, getting filled in with like the Jaguars. I think he comes into a team that actually has a chance to win something. I'm going to go way out on the limb. 49ers.
Yeah, no, I could see it. I mean, because let me ask you, Even in the AFC title game, were you still a Jimmy G guy? Were you still like, whoa, this guy's really good?
Kyle Shanahan told me everything I needed to know about Jimmy G. I know Jimmy G's a good quarterback. They let it rip during the season, but did you see when they got into the playoffs, Jeff? Like when everything went around in the playoffs, he was nowhere to be found. Just like the big man on campus right now is nowhere to be found right here.
I'm gone. The fuck? The hell happened?
That'll do it today for the Pub Sports Radio broadcast going through with bring them back. Yeah, look, we're still live. I'm talking to myself. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Yeah, it's perfect.
I don't know what happened.
Go ahead. We were talking about the 49ers. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think you're dead right with the Niners. I still wonder if there's like a concern there because I love that team, but the only thing that holds me back is the Paisan
that's what you were saying. I was trying to, we got cut out there was Jimmy G was very good in the regular season, but if you're the head coach, you know more about your players than anybody else. And in the playoffs, he didn't let it rip. In the Super Bowl, he didn't let it rip. That tells you all you need to know about Jimmy G.
And I think you're totally right. And I think they're the best team in the league, but I worry about the quarterback position. Yeah. Here's one other comment real quick.
Yeah.
Oakland or the Raiders. They got to be nuts.
They got Mariota, though. They're going to bring in Cam on top of it?
No, scrap both of them. Shouldn't have did the Mariota thing, and he should have cut fucking Carr loose. You get a new stadium, you get a new town. Bring in big Cam Newton to lead that team. What are you doing, Oakland? Derek Carr stinks, and so does Mariota. Another idiot organization that doesn't understand anything. But yeah, I'll go with. I'll kind of agree with you. I think it's a team that
is still in it. That can still do something.
What about this? What? Baltimore.
Yeah, no, it's that's that. I think
Lamar gets injured. Hey, come right in. You're perfect for what we do.
Like why would Cam Newton come in to go to the Redskins? With that, like you know what I mean? The Jaguars. Like if I'm Cam Newton, somebody's going to come calling because you know as well as I do, people get hurt, especially top flight starters, where a guy can come in and sort of carry the load and get you to the playoffs. I think that's where. That'll do it, folks. PubSportsRadio.com's Hot Topic Edition. Check us out tomorrow when we come back on Wednesday for more Hot Topics.